I want to ask you, of course, about those back-to-back Outback Bowl wins again, beating Ohio State. And again, coming from what, again, I think it just has to hold a special place in your heart, coming from where you started 98, 99 to finally breaking through and seeing the success. And I mean, heck, beating an Ohio State program like you were talking about, you guys played programs like Tennessee and Georgia and Florida with all their tradition and all these shiny things. And it's like you beat them back to back, like whatever, and you blow them out one time. And the other time you had the last second field goal, which I guess probably should have been a blowout when you look at the game. Whatever, you won the game either way. And then they go on to the national title the next year, which is crazy when you think about it. But just talk about being a part of that. I mean, like you said, you literally go from wearing your South Carolina shirt inside out to back-to-back Outback Bowl champs, and I'm sure you're flaunting it all around. And you know what I mean? You got something to be proud of.
Yeah, so I mean, talk about a perennial powerhouse like Ohio State.
Yeah,
insane. So I mean, we have just as many questions about who the real Ohio State is everybody else does. Just in terms of never playing a team from the Big Ten, and so, and just the proximity that you are with the other team in the bowl situation is just unique in itself. Those are some of the biggest human beings I ever seen. Some of those guys are walking through the doorway and the same size as the door. It was holy, this is insane, But I mean, going from the gutter of college football period to all of a sudden coming into the hotel, getting your gift bag, getting all your swag, getting your big per diem check, going to see NFL games, the hockey games, going to Busch Gardens to the beach party, getting your ring, coming to the stadium. It was just a surreal experience. It brought everybody back to that feeling we had in our first game. Because a lot of people who haven't played on the big stage, one thing is when you get in the zone, crowd noise disappears. And then that first game you play, it's almost you feel you're in the television set, if that makes sense.
Right.
Everything's so bright. You're used to seeing this uniform on TV. You're used to seeing the perfectly manicured field. You almost have to pinch yourself to be oh no, I'm in it. That's why you see a lot of guys, hitting each other on the helmet or all the screaming. You got to kind of shake yourself out of it. And that's that same experience that we had in the bowl game. And it's funny that we played the same opponent, same location, same bowl. And so even though I'm 40, I feel like I'm 75 years old when people ask me how I feel about both games because they both meshed together. I'm like, is that the one we had the garnet jersey or the white jersey? What happened with that one? Is that the gold ring or the silver ring? I can't remember, but we saw XYZ.
Is that the Ryan Brewer game or the Daniel Weaver game?
Right. Yeah. But those are some. But there's 100% a speed overall team speed advantage that we took advantage of. But in terms of popping pads and hitting, the Big Ten was bringing it.
No, for sure. And I just just randomly sitting here thinking, Willis, it's interesting because I feel like Gamecock fans, and me specifically as well, have such a reverence for those teams, those 2000, even with the struggles, with Holtz's first year, you think back and you just name guys off those teams Petty, Ryan Brewer, Pinnock, yourself. I mean, Langston Moore and Corey Jenkins and Dondrell Pinkins. I'm sure, like you were saying, because you're saying that you and Corey Jenkins still talk about that play and stuff. And like I said, I've had guys from those teams on my show, and it's just got to be a really cool thing for you guys, a cool feeling for you guys to know that you were kind of the worst to first team, basically. You know what I mean? To be a part of that. And because I mean, I really believe in what we saw happen with, and I know it didn't end necessarily the way Lou Holtz would have wanted it to, but he did change the culture to an extent. There's no question Lou Holtz did change the culture. I mean, without Lou Holtz, there wouldn't have been a Steve Spurrier, and without that, there wouldn't have been the run we saw from 10 to 13. Without that, there wouldn't be the expectations we have now. So when you're building a program, I mean, it's all in the long run. And without you guys, what you did, I would say, I mean, we wouldn't have, we certainly wouldn't have had what we saw in 11 to 13. And like I said, have the expectations now. So bottom line, my point is that's got to be cool for you guys as far as being in that unique fraternity of guys that got the job done and won those Outback Bowls.
Right. And don't forget Eric Kimmery either.
Yeah, how could I forget Kimmery? I was on his show last week. Could never forget Kimmery. The fade, man. Yeah.
Yeah. But and so and I'm glad you mentioned all those guys too, because back to taking the names off the back of the jerseys, there are so many intricate pieces in terms of role players. Because special teams, that third phase, Like that's what Coach Holtz, his main emphasis was on, like the special teams. Like people like popping pads, being in the correct position. No bonehead mistakes. Being accountable. That's what took us to the next level. Even down to like my guys on the scout team. Like learning the other team's offense and not having the scout team is like a disgrace, but like actually like a badge of honor. And people actually appreciating their roles. So we had to swallow a lot of pride for the good of the entire program. And with so many different people having little moments here and there, it really let the Gamecock Nation know that, hey, this program can excel. We're not just at the mercy of just like one big recruit or one person. We saw the team go from here to here, because you really can't pin the success on one player.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. No, it was definitely a team effort, like you said. I don't want to forget also Derek Watson. That was a name. Yep. That was a big contributor right